Legend of Total War here, and today we're doing another Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires campaign review, this time covering Throgg the Troll King. So Throgg is a Norscan legendary lord, and he starts off at Monolith of the Flesh. It's very similar to his start location from Warhammer 2. He used to start off at Winterpire, but you were going up against the Iceling, so his campaign start is basically the same. And then of course you go off to go and fight Krakadrak. Now in Warhammer 2, this had to be one of my least favorite campaigns, and I would constantly complain about Throgg and say how much I hated him, and also how much I hated playing Norsca in Warhammer 2. However, in Warhammer 3, I actually quite enjoy playing Norsca, and I quite enjoy playing Throgg, because a lot of the issues that I had with Throgg have pretty much been fixed. So the massive supply line problems that they suffered in Warhammer 2, those have been fixed, because now instead of 15%, it's only 4%. They can occupy all settlements, so not completely stuck to just being close to the sea, and you're not having to deal with massive ruin dwelling problems. And also their economy has been massively boosted because their port settlements just make so much money, so they're actually one of the richest factions in the game now. So all of their core gameplay issues from Warhammer 2 has been resolved, especially as well the melee penalties. So on higher difficulties in Warhammer 2, the AI had massive melee cheats, and it made it very frustrating to use any melee infantry whatsoever. They would just always lose. But in Warhammer 3, it's actually quite viable to run around with melee infantry armies. In fact, I'd quite often just run around with armies just with marauders and do reasonably well against even odds. So it feels a lot more satisfying to use melee infantry in Warhammer 3, which is good because that is the backbone of your army, at least to begin with. But when you're playing as Throgg the Troll King, you eventually want to head down the line for trolls. And running around with a Norscan Ice Troll Doomstack is a lot of fun. And of course, you don't have to just do it with Throgg, you can do it with other lords that you recruit as well. So I think overall, the Norscan playstyle, in terms of the core gameplay, works really well in Warhammer 3, so I actually highly recommend it. If anything, it might actually be a little bit too easy, but I think that's largely due to the AI not putting up a fight, not necessarily Norsca being too strong. It just seems like whenever you declare war on someone, they just don't really bring enough armies for it to be a really big challenge. That's about it. Now, there are some issues with this campaign. The Monstrous Arcanum is a little bit bugged. Some of these monster hunts can bug out, so be very careful as you're doing them. If you sort of skip a step, sometimes you can completely lock yourself out of the of doing any monster hunts, so just be very careful when doing them. And the main campaign mechanic kind of has its end cut out, which is a little bit disappointing, but the thing is, the end reward isn't really needed anymore, because what used to happen in Warhammer 2 is that you dedicate to a god completely, and then you'd fight some challenges, and then you would fight Archaon. But Archaon's already in the campaign. And so now just sort of nothing happens after you sort of finish the campaign. But you still get to keep the rewards. It's just kind of feels like this campaign isn't quite finished. But it's still good, at least until you get to that late game stage. The thing is, with Warhammer 3, with a lot of factions, I think that most of these campaigns end pretty early on, you just sort of get bored and want to start something new, because there's so much variety of characters, right? So are you really going to end up getting to turn 100 or 200 to see that end game sort of not happen? So that's just a question that you need to ask yourself. In terms of difficulties, like the optimal difficulty, I reckon playing this campaign on very hard campaign difficulty and hard battle difficulty is probably the optimal for a fun campaign. But if you're decent at this game, then I would highly recommend just go legendary very hard, because this is a faction that can definitely handle that difficulty, and it feels satisfying to have bigger battles with tougher opponents, because a large portion of your economy is based on getting loot. So overall, I do actually highly recommend this campaign, and I enjoy Throgg, which I think is weird. But anyway, that's just how it happened. Anyway, that's the end of this one here, guys. Let me know in the comments below which legendary lord you'd like me to cover next. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next time.